great. So my name is Karen Olson, and I am here to talk about psychic hygiene. So I imagine that lots of people already have practices that you are using, and I would love to hear about your favorite psychic hygiene practices. One of the things that I think we'll discuss kind of first is why do we use psychic hygiene? What's important about that? And I think what's really obvious to anyone living and breathing right now is that the world is pretty topsy-turvy. So I know here in Olympia, Washington, we are navigating some extreme unhealthy air because of the fires in our area, Oregon and California. And so, and the stresses of COVID and people losing their jobs because of it. There's a lot of intensity happening in our world right now. And so one of the things that I think psychic hygiene is really helpful is that it can help us maintain a stronger auric vessel. So we have many layers of bodies. So we have our emotional body, our physical body, our psychic body, all these different, we have many different bodies, and each of them require a certain kind of care. And I think culturally, we are not taught, or most people don't speak about the impact that our psychic bodies are suffering every day. And so my suggestion is to consider daily practices, especially right now, at least weekly practices and monthly practices and seasonal practices. I think all of those, using the practices on a frequent kind of level can be incredibly valuable to helping our bodies, our physical bodies, stay healthy. Because if our psychic bodies are unraveling, then it's really hard on our physical bodies. And so I imagine that many of you all have practices that you use. And so if folks could just pop in the chat, some of their favorite practices, and we'll name those as well. I will take a moment here to speak about smudge or smoke cleansing. So I just want to do a quick side note about that, in that I am a strong advocate for changing terminology from smudging to smoke cleansing, because smudging is a Native American practice that most people have not been trained in, that are, well, should say most white people who are using smudge and sage are not trained to do that in that particular spiritual practice. And it is very common throughout the world to use smoke cleansing as a psychic hygiene practice. And I want to encourage people to change their language so that you are speaking of smoke cleansing instead of smudging. And then also I want to kind of bring forward the idea that sage is not the only plant that can assist us in this way. So sage is an amazing, very valuable plant, and probably going to be even more endangered after all the forest fires that have been in California recently. There are many other plants that can be used in this manner. And one of those plants is to use mugwort is really valuable. And I also really like to use plants that are that really like to be cut, like to be cut back. And so rosemary is one of those. Rosemary really likes to, puff out when it has been cut back a little bit. And lavender is another one that really loves to be cut back. So using lavender and rosemary smudge sticks, or excuse me, I made the own mistake. Smoke cleansing sticks are really valuable for people to use that as a clearing practice, a psychic hygiene practice. So I see a couple people have made some notes in the chat, so I'm just going to read that real quick. Someone who talks about doing a daily meditation and grounding practice through the fairy tradition, which is super cool. That's awesome. And another person that uses meditation and lavender oil for ritual cleansing. Fabulous. Another favorite, Julie says a favorite technique is scraping the body with iron, followed by rue and hyssop bath. Awesome. Those are so great. These practices, often people are using them. So the other thing I'd like to talk about with psychic hygiene is that I think they get used in a couple different ways, such as I think they're often used in kind of a first aid fashion. So first aid psychic hygiene being like, you went to your relative's house, they're all crazy, not in your, let's say, you have diverse political opinions or even diverging political opinions, and that you feel yucky and that you feel like heavy and weighed down and sticky and all that kind of stuff, and you come home and you decide to smoke cleanse yourself or take a clearing, cleansing shower or bath or something like that. That would be like first aid. So you recognize that your psychic body has taken a hit, that you feel vulnerable and weak maybe in your psychic body, and you know it needs to be cleared and strengthened so that you don't have that kind of weighing you down. So that is an instance where someone would be doing psychic hygiene for first aid, which is great. Awesome. Please continue doing that. But I would also like to suggest that, like I had mentioned in the beginning, maybe before we started YouTube recording, but that I really like to recommend daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonal practices. Daily practices can be lighting a candle, calling on your ancestors for assistance and to bring fortitude and strength to your body. There's many kinds of daily practices. Meditation is probably my biggest suggestion. That is one of the most strengthening auric, emotional body, psychic body, all the bodies get strengthened by meditation. So that would be, if you only did one thing, I would say meditation would be your best bet. Weekly practices can be at the end of the week. You know, take a shower that is specifically designed to kind of scrub your week off of you. And that also is nice to be accompanied by some kind of either a chant or some kind of mantra that could be like, I release the worries and struggles of my week. I release the, attachments I have to the people and places that I spent my time with this last week. Any of those kinds of things, repeating that over and over as you're washing your body can be incredibly helpful. Monthly practices can be based on the moon, which is one of my favorite ways to use those practices. So I smoke cleanse my home on the full moon and the dark moon. I do other practices during that time as well, and so that incorporate clearing before I work with my coven mates. And so that is part of our practices. And And then finally, seasonal practices. So one of my favorite things to teach about is the Celtic calendar, which is based on 8 seasonal holidays throughout the year. And I really love using the 8 holidays as well as a point of kind of centering, grounding, a point of reflection, a point of connection, a point of honoring your spiritual practices. And all those things kind of strengthen your psychic body and can be really valuable. So there are like a million things that we can talk about. And so I would love to hear what are of interest to the folks that are here today. And if there's a specific question that you have around psychic hygiene that is curious to you, or suggestion of practices. And while you all are adding some things to the chat, I'm going to also talk about that there are also, when I think about psychic hygiene, I think about 3 aspects of that. And that is people, places, and thoughts. So those are kind of can be the focus. So with the people, you know, we're doing psychic hygiene for our own personal care, but we're also doing that in reaction to maybe other places that we have gone, or like I had used the example of family that are, you know, maybe not in alignment with you or don't see eye to eye with you, you know, clearing the energetic impact of that. There's also protective measures that you can take in that kind of a situation too. And one of my favorite ones is using an amulet. So I used to own a retail store in downtown Olympia, and one of the things that we sold were black tourmaline, and they're probably still available there. They are wonderful. Black tourmaline is a wonderful amulet that's super grounding, because the more grounded you are, the more strong your auric field is going to be. So grounding practices are really essential to having a really strong, kind of solid, hard to falter auric field. And so using crystals like black tourmaline on a chain around your neck can be really helpful, especially if it's near your heart, can be really helpful in a protective kind of measure. So I love to encourage folks to use amulets, especially when you're going into a situation. Maybe you're meeting with your boss and you're having a difficult conversation. Having an amulet that you wear either on a chain around your neck at your heart, or many of the people I love and spend time with, we all have crystals in our bras, if you're a woman or if you wear a bra, no matter who you are. That is also an option to have it near your skin, near your body, to help create some kind of additional strength. That's like adding another protective measure.
I have 4 on me at any one time that I'm
What was
wearing
that?
around. I have 4 amulets or necklaces that I wear at any one time.
Very nice.
I'll put out there for you to answer is that there's a lot of unintentional negativity given the state of the world today.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts that you can share with us?
You know, I think one of the most important things for the unintentional kind of hits that we're getting is using those daily practices to keep our own field strong and clear and unobstructed. So the more that we can have a regular meditation practice, a regular clearing practice, those kinds of things are really going to help those unintentional hits that people are inflicting upon one another be less impactful. If you have a strong kind of foundation, you have a good grounding practice that you're using every day, I think those things can be really, really valuable. Thank you, Lawrence, for adding that in. I appreciate that. And anybody else who has any questions, feel free to, you can turn on your camera and wave to me if you want, or you can also drop it into the chat, however you like to do that. So if there's more questions about specific practices or specific techniques, I'm happy to speak to that. So I spoke a little bit about people and how, you know, we are in environments where the world is a little crazy and a little intense. And so being able to have those practices, both from a hygiene perspective, where we're looking at how are we caring for our auric field and our psychic bodies, and then also how are we protecting those when we're going into situations that we know will be a little bit intense or a little bit high energy. How do we make sure that we have that kind of strength build in? That's great. So, oh, there's a question here. Colette says, are there more techniques that don't rely on external influences? More techniques that don't. I'm not sure what you mean, Colette. If you could maybe clarify, are you suggesting like things that don't require like you to purchase something? Because I totally understand that. Because I had mentioned the black tourmaline was helpful, and that using smoke cleansing sticks are helpful. You don't necessarily need to purchase a smoke cleansing stick. There's lots and lots of weeds that people consider weeds out there that are awesome for smoke cleansing. And like I had mentioned, rosemary and lavender can be really valuable too. I would say again, meditation would be the most important technique, I think. I gotcha. Thank you, Colette. She says more like meditation that don't require purchasing anything, which I totally appreciate. I think the meditation would be my go-to number one. I think, you know, I am a big water baby, and so using water as a cleansing technique is really valuable to me. So I use showers. I don't use a bath as a cleansing technique. I use a bath as a fortifying technique. So when you're soaking in a bath with, you know, you can put Epsom salts and essential oils in there, but they're not required. Again, I would use your, you know, use your spell work, use your mantras to be giving your body the information about what you're doing to fortify yourself. So I am soaking in the waters to restore my energy, to heal my heart, and to love my body. That would be a great kind of mantra spell work that you could do as you are taking a bath. With showers, I really like to use showers as a clearing technique. So as I'm washing myself, again, using that mantra to clear the energy, remove the gunk, kind of let go of the intensity of the day or the work or whatever you've been doing that has kind of gotten you mucked up. So those are some of my favorite techniques that are not about purchasing something, because that is not essential. You do not have to buy anything to be a good witch or a bad witch, whichever is your goal. So I talked a little bit about people, and I want to talk about places and thoughts. So places, psychic hygiene for places like your home or the place that you live, or if you live with other people, your bedroom or your sleeping space, I think is also incredibly valuable. So clearing the space is smoke cleansing is a great one. Someone is suggesting that they sit in sunlight. That's awesome. And listening to the higher vibration of certain music, totally suggest that. absolutely use sound and song as a clearing technique for myself as well. So as I'm preparing to do maybe a ceremony or a ritual, I will absolutely put on music that clears the space, inspires me, and brings kind of a strength and a fortitude to me. So clearing your space, you know, if you have an office that you work in, or which most people are working from home these days, but even if you have an office in your home, or if you're um, clearing a bedroom space, you know, sound is really valuable. You can, of course, use a beautiful singing bowl, but you don't need to do that. You can take any object that's going to make noise. You can even use your hands to make a loud clapping sound to shift the energy in a space. You can use, oh my gosh, 25 years ago, I would use pots and pans, clang them together to clear space. So those kinds of things are going to have an impact. Now, not everybody has the, you might already have kind of a vulnerable psychic body, and a loud noise might not be nurturing for you at all. And that is okay too. You can make a low tapping sound. You know, you could even use a book to make a kind of drum-ish sound. Those kinds of things are also going to shift the energy in a room. So spraying pretty smelling water is a great way to do it. Something that doesn't cost anything, a moon water. So if you put a bowl, I like to use a bowl that's either clear or, oh yes, Julie Lovejoy says rattles. Absolutely, rattles are awesome. And they're easily made with like a jar and some beans. You can make a homemade rattle. So, or any kind of grain. To make moon water, I really like to use a clear bowl or like a stainless steel bowl, so it has a reflective part to it, or it's clear. Fill it full of water from your home, and some people like to use distilled water, whatever floats your boat there, and leave it out either at the dark moon or at the full moon. My preference is to start before the full moon and then go after the full moon for a period of time. Usually I'll do like an overnight kind of moon water, especially for a full moon. I'll do it overnight and also for the dark moon. That then you can put into a spray bottle and spray around the room, or just dip your hand into it and sprinkle and flick the water into the space. That's also a great space clearing. There is definitely the potential for people to have, you know, an uncleared space, which can feel heavy, it can feel cold, it can feel mucky, like it's gummed up, it can feel uncomfortable. All those things are uncleared spaces. It can feel dirty even though it's clean. All those kinds of things can be kind of a symptom of an uncleared space. And I would again recommend any space that you're spending considerable time in to do some kind of regular cleansing of that space in some format. I also like to suggest that people think about, what element are you drawn to and what element are you not drawn to? So earth, air, fire, water. If you are loving water, then maybe the opposite end of that spectrum is fire. And so maybe you clear your home with water because you love water and water is connected to you. But maybe if it's not shifting enough, then maybe you need to use fire. So that would be a candle, although they are recommending these days to not burn candles or things like that in your interior spaces, because our exterior spaces are very unhealthy air right now. So we want to keep our interior spaces as clear as possible without having you know, other indoor air pollutants. So think about that with the elements. What is Oh, Colette says our homes are getting mucked up because of the increase of our being at home. I totally agree with that. We are spending a ton of time at home, especially those of us who can't work in our normal spaces that we work in. Then it's going to get more mucky. And, we're home with our people, and we're home with our kids, and we're home with our partners that we don't usually spend 24/7 with, or housemates that we're not usually spending that much time with. So there is definitely it's going to get more mucky more quickly. So clearing your space is going to be really valuable. And again, some kind of practice. I really am big on practices, like weekly, monthly, seasonally, however you want to do it. More frequently is going to be better. Daily practices are awesome. It could be when the air quality is better. It could be that you just open your front door and your back door when you in the middle of the day. That could be, but it's intentional, using your intention, or using a broom to clear your space. That is one of my most favorite things to do as well, is using a broom to clear your space. That can be really valuable. The final thing of the people, places, and thoughts is our thoughts. So how do we clear our thoughts? Well, being mindful about what we're thinking and saying to ourselves is incredibly important. And also, we're going to come back to meditation with that. Being able to train your monkey mind, to be able to, quiet that chatter that is so prevalent. And I know it's true for me, and it's probably true for a number of people here as well, that can be a lot of kind of negative talk that goes on in the background. And so the more you can kind of manage that with meditation and get your mind comfortable with quiet and not chatter, that is incredibly valuable for having a really strong psychic field that is not as impacted and I want to say damaged, but that's not the right word. Impacted, I guess, is the word I'm going to use. Impacted by the crazy world that we're living in these days. It's very intense right now, and the more we can do to care for ourselves, I think the better off we'll be. Julie also makes a suggestion about doing offerings to house spirits. That is a great idea. I come from the Norse tradition, Scandinavia, and we work with tomtas in my house. And so that is definitely an entity that we work with on a regular basis, and they are our allies. So they help keep my space, the land that my house is on, and the physical structure of our house is also maintained by the tomtas. So they help clear the space. They help keep us, yes, oatmeal and butter to the tomtas, yes. They help keep us protected. So they wake me up in the night if something weird is happening. So definitely creating allies with other entities can be very helpful. And I am a very strong advocate of offerings. I love to give offerings in many ways, in many formats. And so we've got about 10 minutes left, and I would love to hear if there's any things that other people would like to share. You're welcome to turn your camera on and unmute yourself if you'd like to talk about things that you think are interesting. So Candy says, every night I cut all the cords acquired that day that do not serve my higher good. That is awesome. That's a perfect spell to cast as you are taking a shower at the end of the night, if you shower at the end of the day, or even doing as a sweep of your body as you leave your office or as you come into your home, or just go outside, stand barefoot on the lawn and do that cutting cords. That's a fabulous practice. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So are there any other practices that people would like to share, or any questions that you have about a specific kind of psychic hygiene situation? Oh, wait, before we do that, sorry. I want to mention that I am teaching a year-long class that starts next week that's called Weaving Spirit and Magic Through the Seasons. It's a class based on the Celtic calendar, and we'll be meeting monthly. So we'll meet 12 times over the next year, and it will be a supportive practice to developing a stronger connection to the seasons, some nature connected practices, and some and community support, connecting with one another, kind of talking about what worked and what didn't work, and ways to be more deeply send the link to the class. Actually, what I'll put in is I'll put in my email address, and you can email me because I am not that technological yet. So send me an email if you are interested in more info about the class, and I can send you some. It starts next Wednesday. So if you are interested, definitely reach out to me as soon as, well, next Wednesday is in like 4 days. Reach out to me as soon as possible so that we can make the arrangements. The class is, it is on a sliding scale, $30 to $60 a month. And also, please don't let money stop you. If that price is too high, I'm happy to work something out with you. And I have a particularly discounted rate for POC folks, or anyone who feels like they need that, particularly LGBTQ folk as well. It is an online class. It'll be on Zoom, so monthly. So any other questions that folks have about psychic hygiene, or any information that they would like? Thanks for showing up. I appreciate you all spending a little time on your Sunday with me. I love teaching, and I love talking about psychic hygiene. I really have a passion for it, and love to encourage people and coach them and help them think about ways to continually strengthen your psychic field so that you have the access to the energy and the fortitude that you want to be able to do the work in the world that is important to you, that you are here to do. So I want to support people in doing that. Let's see. Yes, the full schedule. Lawrence put that up. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We've got the rest of the day's schedule and links to voting. If you aren't registered, please make your intentions known. Any final questions for Karen before we move on?
See a couple great classes, and thanks for the practical info. You are so welcome. I'm very happy to bring this to you, and I'm glad it was helpful, because definitely my intent is practical information. Do I have a book? I do not have a book, but I do teach longer versions of this class. So if people are interested in more information or a deeper dive, I'm happy to do that. And Kathy, you have a question?
Yes, I was just wondering, cleansing once we've experienced becoming dirty is very helpful, but is there a psychic version of gloves or a psychic version of a mask that you could recommend for before we encounter the toxic people in our life or the toxic experiences in our life?
Yes, great question. So I love using the amulet. I had mentioned that. There's a couple other things that you can do that would be like creating shields. And so one of them is after I I shower in the morning. So after I shower in the morning, I use a specific oil blend that has, my blend actually has Devil's Club in it, and also some other essential oils. And I put that over my heart with a prayer or a spell that says, may it be protected from any negative energy or negative entities that are working against my favor today. So that would be like putting on a mask, like you kind of are setting yourself up for, you know, having a shield present. The amulet works awesome. I would also say meditation is going to be that too, because the stronger your field is, the less you're going to be impacted by random people and situations, or even known entities. So if you have a coworker that drives you crazy, and you're going to be in contact with them, if you're meditating on a regular basis, you're going to have a stronger field. So when they go to poke you, it's going to be less apparent, or less, you're going to feel it a little bit less because your field is strong. So those are a couple suggestions I would suggest. Yeah. Any other last questions before we close up?
I think that her energy techniques are amazing. I would also like to add like doing Reiki and just trying to ground yourself in that energetic, peaceful presence and letting people's emotions pass, because right now a lot of people are cycling through fear and anger and feeling out of control. And so I feel like people who we might be normally comfortable around can be erratic, and that it's important to just ground yourself, put up that shield, like she said, and then just allow yourself to be filled with peace and let the turmoil go past you, you know?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I would love for you folks to email. A couple of people have asked about if I have a website. I'm in the process of building one right now. It does have some information on it, but it's, you know, not quite done. But I put my email address, Karen@moonhill.us, in the notes. So send me a message. Love to hear from you. And if you and a group of people would like to hear more and like a longer class, reach out to me. I'd love to teach, and I'd be happy to pull something together. So thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Lawrence,
you.
for all your hard work.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time. And this has been really cool. I've seen several events this weekend, and I got to see Lene Reed, who's here today earlier, and she was amazing, and I loved hearing her poetry. And yeah, it's a super cool event to be able to pop into, and so amazing that people get to do it for free too. I love that. So, and support the teachers that you can. You know, there are folks out there that could use, I'm sure, a little gift. So if you have the ability and the a way to be able to honor somebody that way, I'm sure they would appreciate that. So thanks again.
Thank you. Blessed
All
be.
right.